Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the SMARTA Podcast. If you're ready to increase your emotional intelligence and sit down for an episode with Ricardo Cabete, who absolutely amazingly breaks down the mindset that it takes to become a more intelligent, emotionally intelligent person, then this episode is for you. But just before we begin, if you could do me a favor and double check that you're subscribed, it would really help me and all the wisdom of the people and the guests that you're learning on here. With that being said, let me tell you more about today's guest. Ricardo Cabete is a global keynote speaker who helps Fortune 500 companies like Novartis, PwC, and HSBC boost employee engagement through the power of emotional intelligence. Ricardo specializes in equipping corporate leaders with practical tools to communicate in ways that spark real emotional connection, leading to stronger retention, productivity, and profitability. What makes Ricardo truly unique is the energy and presence that he brings to his work. He has over 17 years of experience as a lead singer in a rock band, and he blends stage charisma with evidence-based leadership techniques, inspiring teams to perform at their highest level. Ricardo's mission is clear: to help leaders and organizations build cultures where people feel engaged, connected, and unstoppable. Ricardo Cabete, welcome on the SMARTA Podcast.
Thank you so much, Sonia. It's my pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Where I want to take you first, because your story stood out to me and it's absolutely extraordinary, is from being a person that was shy and afraid to sing in public to performing at international rock festivals with bands like the Black Eyed Peas. And now you help Fortune 500 leaders like Novartis, PwC, and HSBC create emotionally connected teams. What would be the top 3 key takeaways and themes that you're going to speak about today?
Okay, I think I can share, because my expertise is more on emotional intelligence and employee engagement. So for sure, I will share some emotional intelligence strategies, practical strategies that you can apply listening. And also, if you're a leader, and because we got to say that we are all leaders, of course, in different areas of our lives. If you're a leader, how to engage other people, how to engage in a positive way, of course, other people. The third point, I think for sure, I will talk a little bit about my story, and it's a story of resilience. And how to, if you're a shy person, if you're a more introvert person, how can you really take the stage, be a leader, be more confident, have more energy? So I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Amazing first 3. And I just want to link the strategies that people listening today can apply to your TED Talk that I mentioned in the green room before we began recording, that you had, I think, in late 2019 on emotions and authenticity. And just this analogy that I really appreciated that you have, we'll dive into it later, about cows versus buffaloes and their attitudes when a storm arrives. And with that, I want to ask you the moment of realization that you had in regards to emotional intelligence, when you saw that it wasn't something just nice to have, but when you noticed that it was actually the real driver of engagement, performance, and results.
Yes, actually, it's not just one moment, several moments in my life that I started to realize, started building on that idea. But for sure, the first one was the karaoke night. So the karaoke night, I was afraid to speak in public and sing in public until I was 22 years old. A friend of mine invited me to go to a karaoke. And of course, I said no. So I had, as usual, the cow attitude, running away from problems, running away from my storm. I said, no way, I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to stay here in my comfort zone. But she insisted. She said, hey, you don't have to sing. You just go and watch. And I said, well, okay, I'll go in that condition. And she said, okay, let's do this. So I was there. I was relaxed. I was listening to other people sing. And then the karaoke DJ just said, Ricardo Cabete to the stage. And I had like 40 people in the room all saying, I said, no. I said to him, no, sorry. Because my friend put my name in, gave to him. And I said, no. But he said, I'm not moving on this night until you come to this stage. So for the first time in my life, I felt, well, not the first time, but one of the biggest ones, social pressure, right? 40 people, everyone was looking at me, and everyone was saying, please, Ricardo, come to the stage. So I realized that sometimes in life we need a little push. And that push was very important in my life. So I went to the stage. For the first time, I had the buffalo attitude. I faced the storm. I faced the problem. But I was so nervous and anxious that the karaoke DJ, he noticed that I was nervous. Instead of putting my song, the Portuguese song that I selected, he put a striptease song, You Can Leave Your Hat On by Joe Cocker. And everyone started saying, take it off, take it off. And then I was even more nervous. But then he put my song, I closed my eyes. And from the beginning till the end of the song, I couldn't look at anyone. I closed my eyes, but I sang from the heart. And when I opened my eyes, I had 40 people. They were cheering really loud. And I know that they were cheering like that because I was so nervous and I didn't want to go. And then I sang from the heart and they liked that contrast, right? But for me, they were clapping and cheering because I overcome a fear that was 22 years old and it felt so good. So in my mind, I started to understand I was missing on life because I was afraid. I didn't know how to deal with my fear of singing, right? So that was the first part. But the most important thing was I went from a cow attitude running away from the storm to a buffalo attitude and just facing the storms and risking. So I went to the first edition of American Idol in Portugal, here in Portugal. And the first audition, they said, go home. So my first thought was, I'm no good at it. But what I did, not in the same day, I was devastated, but in the next few days, I did something that I now teach all over the world, which is challenge your automatic negative thoughts, because the majority of them, they're not truth and they're not good for you. So what I did was I went from I'm no good or no use in trying to I can learn, I can be better. It's something that I like. So I went online, I got singing lessons. I searched for an amateur rock band, and for 3 years, I was rehearsing, improving, and having fun, right? 3 years after the karaoke and the American Portuguese Idol audition, I was performing in a big international festival with my band, with the Black Eyed Peas, with the Prodigy, same festival as Marilyn Manson and other big bands. So for me, the only difference was this thought in my head, this belief in my head. When I change that, it changes my life. So I start to understand a little bit more. To make it short, because it's a big story, I failed a lot. I have a degree on applied mathematics, but before that, I was in engineering university. I didn't like, so I failed on that, or whatever you want to call it. And then I went to when I got out of a mathematics degree at university, I went to work in a bank. And then I was not happy there. I liked it. I was good at it, but it wasn't my passion. So I got out and I started doing day trading. I built my own process, my own method. For 1 year, I was earning a lot of money. And in one day, I lost all the money. So the thing is, I understand that was lack of emotional intelligence because I was down in that day and I entered the market to compensate. And we compensate in different ways. Maybe it's eating sweets, maybe it's smoking, whatever it is. In that day, I lost a lot of money because I was trying to compensate my emotional. I didn't know how to manage my emotions in that day. So that was another story. So I have a series of stories that went to building up. Of course, romantic relationships that I didn't manage and I didn't know how to deal with other person. And so it started building up until I realized that I need to apply on myself. I started to learn, read all the books, take all the international certifications, postgraduate degree on emotional intelligence, then courses also and certifications on employee engagement. I start to apply on myself. And when I realized the results, the difference, people that know me when I was 14 think I'm a different person, but I'm not. I'm the same person with more confidence, let's say like that. So then I realized I wanted to share because I have that personality. I want to share with others what I learned and I'm that kind of person. When I see a great movie, I share with all my friends.
Yeah.
Hey, look at this movie. It's amazing. So I wanted to share. So this is what I do. 9 years now. I've been in the 24, now 25 in a few days in countries, and it's been amazing. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think this is something super relatable. And since you did mention that you have quite some stories that you want to share with us today, I want to go deeper into your transition from the music industry to the keynote speaking industry, and how precisely everything that you've learned, that you sometimes need that little push and you need to shift from the cow to the buffalo thought track method. How can that mindset apply in leadership?
Your focus is, okay, how can I direct other people? How can I serve other people? But we forget that to be a leader, you need to lead yourself first. You need to be aware of your own emotions. If you're not aware of your own emotions, you cannot lead others. And so this is kind of my shift, my understanding of that was my story, because I understood that if I needed better relationships, romantic, at work, whatever it is, I need to work on myself first. Because a lot of times when there's a relationship that it's not working, any kind, it's not about that relationship. It's about a lot of times about personal issues that each person has and need to solve them. And then we project to others and there's conflicts. So first you need to be aware, you need to be work on yourself, work on your health, work on yourself, work on your emotions, work on your traumas that we have. And of course, I was in psychologist also. And I did all that work first. I'm still improving. And later in this podcast, I can share this little story, maybe at the end, that it's something very recent that changed how I deliver my speeches. And for the last 8 years, I was delivering all wrong. So the message here is you need to lead yourself first, take care of yourself first, lead your emotions first. You cannot manage anything that you're not aware of. So that's why self-awareness is one of the most, maybe the most important skill inside the skills of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to dive deeper now into emotional intelligence since you touched on about it earlier. But before I do so, can I challenge you on what you just said?
Of course.
And dive deeper into, in order to lead, you first know how to lead yourself. And I think this is a concept that's very, very fascinating to me, really, since I came across the work of Barry Posner and the Leadership Challenge that has 5 parts. And it struck me because he says he has this concept that you don't follow others. You're not a leader to create followers. You're a leader to create people that want to inspire and want to create their own things and become more passionate about what it is that they do. And to add on to what you said, I think in order to lead yourself first, you also need to become the person that you've always wanted to become and that you yourself can look up to, looking back to where you came from.
I totally agree. And it's one thing that sometimes in my mind, those limiting beliefs that come, it's like I ask myself, am I being inauthentic? Because I'm a shy person. I'm an introvert person. But when I'm on stage, nobody believes because I have a lot of energy. I'm confident. And so I asked them to myself. But then what I learned is what happened was I was a shy person that couldn't challenge, that couldn't go on stage, that couldn't sing on stage, that couldn't do this. And so it was like a lot of walls, a lot of limitations. I was a shy introvert. It's different things, but I was both. And what happens now is I'm a confident introvert. It's different. So now I'm still nervous before I go on stage. I'm still nervous. I'm still an introvert. I still find my energy when I'm alone. After I give my speech, and I love being with people, but when I go to my hotel room is when it's where I get my energy back because I give my all on stage. And so it's not being inauthentic. You can still be yourself, but you're just playing a different part. We all play different parts. I'm a dad, I'm a singer, I'm a leader. With a friend, I have a different way of dealing with this friend and this friend that it's completely different. So we adapt. Being a leader is adapting to the situation, to the personality of other people, to the context, to the culture. I believe it's not being inauthentic. It's being ourselves in different parts and not letting emotions be an obstacle. I love the definition of Justin Bariso, my friend, author of the book EQ Applied. And usually what I like is the simple. Keep it simple. And I always give his definitions in my trainings, always, because it's the best one. Emotional intelligence is using your emotions in your favor instead of against you. It's simple, but it's powerful.
Emotional intelligence is using your emotions not against you, but for you. I think that's truly brilliant to mention all the time. And so Because I want to dive deeper into emotional intelligence, I want to ask you particularly about this phrase that you have that you often say that emotion drives people and people drive results. Can you
Yes.
unpack this idea, particularly about why emotional intelligence is such a critical factor in employee engagement?
Okay. So it's what I like to say, what usually I say is emotional intelligence and employee engagement is very complex. There's a lot of different nuances, a lot of techniques, strategies, and studies, and everything is very complex. What I try to do is bring it to the stage or to the training or to the consultancy in the easy way. So I process the complexity and I try to bring it in an easy way, because if it's not easy, people will not implement it. So there's already a lot of research on the impact of emotional intelligence on leadership, on employee engagement. So all that research, all the studies show the importance of dealing with your emotions, of creating empathy, all the emotional intelligence skills that we can apply at work, in leadership. We have a lot of research that shows us. But the way I don't bring those research a lot, because it doesn't connect. We have to connect in a different way. So what I bring is, nowadays, if you want to engage in this, I created my own method on employee engagement. It's called the GAP model. So what I found out is, in an engaged team, there's certain human needs that makes the people inside the team feel engaged. Because listen to what I said, feel engaged. So there's already a connection. Do you feel engaged or not? Okay, so there's different skills, there are different theories. In my method, in my model, these are the 5 needs. Growth, everyone, we want to grow. We want to have this goal. Autonomy, even with newer generations, autonomy is more and more important. One of the most important human needs, appreciation. We all need to feel appreciated, right? And at work a lot, of course, for sure. Psychological safety and purpose. So these are the 5 needs. Of course, there's others, and it's different for everyone. It's not this rule, it's just a guiding map. If you work on these 5 human needs, then people will feel engaged inside the team. But it's hard to do. You know why it's hard to do? Because for each need, each person has different strategies that meet the need. Let me give you an example. For me, freedom is having my own business, because the need for creativity is there, for autonomy is there. So different needs, and makes me feel engaged in my work because I have all those needs met. For the guitar player in my band, I'm not in the band anymore, by the way, but he used to say this. For him, freedom is working 9 to 5. Because when he leaves his work, he can just forget about work. He has his hobbies that he loves to do. Weekend comes, he does whatever he wants. He doesn't have to work in weekends, so he can do whatever he wants. So for him, having his own business would be not having freedom at all. He would be stuck, right? So the need is the same, but how you meet that need is completely different. At work, for example, you like to feel appreciated. I like to feel appreciated, but probably in very different ways. So a leader needs to understand that even though everyone in the team likes to feel appreciated, this person would love to get on stage and receive the big prize in front of the whole company. Other person, and there's several examples on that, people feel sick. They know that they're going to step on the stage to receive the prize, and they feel sick. They get like physical reactions that I'm not going to mention here. And they hate that experience. So the thing is, okay, it's talking to that person, understanding, how do you feel appreciated? How do you want, sometimes just a one-on-one conversation with a manager that he says, hey, you did a great job in this report. This is what you did. This is what you helped the team. So this is the hard part of the new style of leadership, let's say it like that, because we have to go deeper. The old style was what Stephen M.R. Covey shows in his wonderful books, is the command and control style of leadership. Is, I'll tell you what to do, now I will control it. If you do it right, okay, it's good. If you don't, I'll tell you what to do, or you have some kind of punishment or whatever. The new style of leadership, we need to trust and inspire, like you said before. is create trust. It's inspire the team. It's to help them to be better leaders, to be better workers. It's leading from the back a little bit. It's be a facilitator. And so this is the relationship. To engage, you need to connect. To connect, you need to have high emotional intelligence for sure. First with yourself and then with others. So I can show all the research, but it's better when you give the examples. Yeah.
You know what? I'm really fascinated about the gap model and how you give me these 5 things that are absolutely true, especially appreciation when, you go into the workforce and you need to feel heard and seen, and that creates a nice culture in a company. What would be one habit mindset that the person listening, let's say today, can instantly implement into their life tomorrow?
Yeah. Let me give you, it's going to be a mixture of habits and backed up with research.
Let's hear it.
So employee engagement around the world right now, the average is around 23%. This is Gallup's research, the biggest research on employee engagement. They do it every year. So around 23%. This is the average, of course, in US a little bit higher, but not too much. So around 23%. And they do it by country. So we can go there and see in each country what's the engagement level. So what they found out, it's amazing, is even though the average is 23%, there's one habit that a leader can do. And they realized that in those groups, inside the 100% they studied, the engagement in those groups that do that daily habit is 80%. So imagine 23% the average, but inside the groups that did that daily habit, it's 80%. And remember what I said before, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Companies do so many things to create engagement, and sometimes it's so simple. So the habit is the leader, so each leader, have a meaningful conversation with each team member every week. One conversation every week. And of course, some people say, yeah, but it's too much. Imagine if you have 10 people, it's 10 hours and it's hard to fit. But the thing is, when you have a meaningful conversation every week, you don't need to have a 1-hour conversation. You can have a 15-minute conversation with each one of them, starting on Mondays or Friday, whatever it fits the team. And then it's amazing. And then what they study, this is also Gallup study research, is what is a meaningful conversation for people, right? It's important because now leaders want to know, okay, I want to have this conversation. What will I talk about in those meetings? So they found out something very interesting. There's several points. I'll tell you one or two. One of the things is people want to talk more about what they do good instead of what they do bad. So they want to talk about the strengths and not their weaknesses more. Of course, if there's a problem, you have to talk about the problem, you try to solve them. But the conversation needs to be more about what they are doing well. What are their strengths? How can they apply their strengths? I always give this example. Imagine Cristiano Ronaldo, that is from my country, Portugal, and he was one of the best in the world. Some argue the best. Let's not go into that conversation. One of the best in the world. During the training, so he played in the weekend. During the week in the training, do you think he was training his strengths or weaknesses? Strengths as scoring goals and weaknesses as defending. Okay? He was working more scoring goals, his strengths. Because if you work just on your weaknesses, you're not going to enhance and lever your strengths. So you're going to be average in a lot of skills, right? When you work more on your strengths, you're going to be a star performer. And this is one of the things that people having meaningful conversations want. Let's talk about my strengths. What I'm doing well, how can I even improve that? Other part is about relationships and collaboration. What they want is, okay, how can I improve? Because there's conflict sometimes inside the teams, of course. How can we collaborate more? How's the relationship? Maybe in this project is good, you have this skills. It would be a great match if you work with John, for example. So this kind of conversation, there's different teams, but these are the two main ones, let's say.
Absolutely. About the strengths and weaknesses that you told me about, I'm absolutely blown away, because what I've learned to do over the past years in school is they give you sort of this like instruction manual that it's good that you excel in these subjects, but you need to work on your weaknesses. And I've sort of adapted that mindset unconsciously into my work life. whenever, let's say, I'm not as good as posting daily, that's what I'm going to focus on instead of perhaps, writing the new book or engaging in my podcast more. And what you just told me
Yes.
now completely flipped that mindset. And about being, a star player and a star podcast host in that sense is completely true and it makes sense. So thank you for just flipping over that mindset. I think that
And
was
just
very
to
helpful.
complement, sorry to interrupt, to complement is, of course, there's exceptions. When
Yeah.
when you look at emotional intelligence skills, for example, you need to understand which skills do you need to really perform better at your job. If you work directly with customers, eye to eye, you need to create empathy. If empathy is one weakness of yours, you need to work on that because that's something very important to your job. So don't work on the weakness just because it's a weakness. Work if it's really important to you for your job, for your personal life, whatever it is. So it's important to account that.
Exactly. And that fits into perfectly with emotional connections, specifically now in today's world, which has popularized working from home and working in hybrid environments. What would be an easier way for leaders to foster genuine connection with the people with their colleagues when they're not when they're at home and not at work?
Yeah. One of the things that I see a lot is there's too much focus on group meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So there's people that from the day they start the day until the end, they go to one group meeting, there's a short break, then another group meeting. People have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 group meetings in one day. And that kind of started because of the pandemic, and leaders were kind of scared of when you are in the office, you see people, you have this sense of control, right? You see people, you see them working. When the pandemic came, leaders were a little bit lost. They're kind of, okay, I'm losing kind of my power because everywhere I don't see them. I don't know if they're working. So I need to bring them. So the idea was, okay, if we are in a group, if we're talking, if we have meetings, I have the sense of control. I'm not saying group meetings are not important. They are, and you should keep them, but not that much. That's what I'm saying. So the thing is, it's coming back to, if you want to really connect with someone, especially introverts, you need to have those one-on-one conversations. So you need to address that at least once a week. You have one-on-one conversations with everyone in the team, and then you have the group meetings to complement and really work in teams. But that's very important because for an introvert, we'll never say, in general, I don't like to say never, but will likely not say in a group meeting that how he or she feels appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Or that maybe she wants her boss to behave in a different way or have a different style of leadership. So he or she won't have that, even if there's psychological safety in the team, there's an open environment. Even in that environment, it's hard for introverts to really speak out and give sometimes their ideas. So there's group and there's the one-on-ones. I would say we need to balance more. Give me more one-on-one conversation that we can go deeper, and then the group so we can complement, work together, and keep it together. So I believe that, once again, keep it simple. If I can give just one engagement strategy, we can go to all the others, but one engagement strategy, that's it, is really have those meaningful conversations one-to-one, and especially now. It was important back then, but now with a remote and hybrid, it's very, very important. Let me tell you, only 12% said they had a meaningful conversation in the past week in this research from Gallup with the boss, okay? 12%. So we can change that and really get the engagement coming in. Because these meetings are working on the needs. You need to understand each individual needs. What are the strategies for each individual? And then you can look at everyone in the team and say, okay, how can I work this together to work? Let me give you another example with a remote and hybrid. The majority of companies, they say, you have to come to the office 2 days a week. Or 1 or 3, it varies. But the majority have these rules, right? And it's for the whole company. It's the same rule for the whole company, every employee. What happens is only 16% of people, how do they define this? It's the CEO defines, or the board, right? They define this, the senior management, and then they inform. Only 16% of the companies did what creates more engagement. So what creates more engagement, these 16%, what they did was they give the autonomy for the leaders and teams to decide. Because each team is different. Each person in the team is different. Even inside the same department, they have different realities. So what happens in the teams that have higher engagement, what they did was the leader asked them, what do you think? Okay, you prefer individually, you prefer at home? Okay, you're more productive at home. You're more productive when you come to the office. Okay, you have this information. What do you enjoy? What would you like? What was the perfect for you? For your work life balance, for the productivity, what's the best? Okay, individually, and then bring it together with our goals, what we need to do. And then there's another information that's important, that when you need connection with the group, it's important to be in the office. Okay, so now one of the ways could be different is you work at home, you work from the office, you do whatever you want's best for the productivity but it's Fridays, everyone comes to the office, but with intentionality, not just coming and just everyone. We're going to have this meeting to really work, and then we'll have this lunch, pizza for everyone, something like that, fun. So what happens is now because what happens now is Tuesdays, I go to the office. Only half of my team is there. So the intention of being everyone together is now working like that. So when you have a leader that can really manage, and it depends also if you work more outside the office or different contexts, cultures, etc. So this is one of the important things, is to give more autonomy, especially to middle managers.
I want to take you back to your keynote speeches and the idea of your energy that runs throughout all of your speeches, whether it was TEDx or speeches that you deliver to companies, because you're always so full of it. And especially as a keynote speaker and a performer earlier, energy seems to really be a part of who you are. What role would you say does energy play in leadership, particularly when we're communicating with different people?
Yes, I think energy is everything. And I can take you back to the more raw energy, which is your physical energy, emotional energy, your spiritual energy. Everything is connected. In my trainings, in my consultancy, in my speeches, I always, 95% of the time, I speak about the power of taking care of yourself first and working on your self energy. Eat, move, sleep, and breathe. Okay, I'm not going to talk about eat, move, or breathe because everyone knows the advantages. But I think sleep is a very hot topic right now, which is important, of course. And a lot of people still don't look at it, and for leaders. So I always ask people, do you wake up with an alarm? And maybe 70% in the room, yes, working, 60 around that. And what I tell you is, if you need to wake up with an alarm, it means that your body it's not refreshed. It didn't rest enough. You need to wake up naturally. So you need to or sleep more or sleep better, or both, right? So there's different techniques, of course, that I share. And I've been studying the science of sleep, even though it's not my area. I've been studying a lot and there's different things that you can do, but the hard part is really implementing. And this is what it's a decision for everyone, but you need to, in the last hour before going to sleep, no screens. You need to work out, you need to eat better, you need to work on all the things that you need to do so you can sleep better and wake up refreshed so you can then give your all. And why this is important for emotional intelligence? Because, for example, there's one thing called a decision fatigue. And it happens to everyone. It's worse if you're not well, of course, physically. That's why I always tell people, never do important meetings or meetings at all at the end of the day, because we have this decision fatigue. The more we make decisions, we're always making small decisions or big. At the end of the day, it's very hard to make decisions or to think, right? So if you're emotionally drained or physically, it's very hard to say no to that sweet that you love. In the beginning of the day, you can do it. You're refreshed. But at the end of the day or that dinner, you're tired, you're going to grab it, okay? So it's very interesting to understand that the energy inside us really kind of guide us emotionally also. The other part is maybe more what you asked, is the energy when we communicate with others.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's very important. Energy is not being loud. Even though I'm very energetic on stage, I try to make it with ups and downs because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it works. The energy has to have contrast. Like what I learned from my band is you start always with your second best song and you finish with your best song. Start
Mm-hmm.
strong, finish strong. And in the end, it's a roller coaster of energy, of emotions. Contrast works, every kind. The voice, the energy, the strategies, the activities. It has to be. So, like I said, being a leader is like being a manager of energy. You can't be at the top. A boring meeting would be if you're always up there, always up there, always up there, people would be bored. If you're always here, down, down, for sure, very bored. So it's the contrast that makes the engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when I'm on stage, so I bring that energy. Like I said, it's something that I learned. It's not something natural in me, and I still have a lot to learn, of course, but it's something that I learned. I was in Toastmasters. I don't know if you know Toastmasters, international American company, and there's weekly meetings all around the world. Almost every country has it, that you can improve your communication and leadership skills. Yeah, so I learned a lot, and so I totally recommend to everyone.
I want to bring you back to something that you said at the start of the podcast, that you have the story that you wanted at the end to talk about what changed how you deliver speeches and how is it different now to when you just began.
Yes, it's very interesting, and it's last year I was in Oman in the Middle
Mhm.
East delivering. I just came back right now from there. Also, I came back from Oman. I was there watching a speaker that I love. I mentioned him already, Stephen M.R. Covey. And for me, it was amazing because I loved his books and I spoke in the same day in the conference. So I met him in person. It was amazing. And during his speech, he said something that really changed my life for better, my work for sure, and my life also. And what happened was he was telling about this university in California called Pepperdine University. He was working with them and they had this mission. And the mission was, we create the best leaders in the world. And then he was working with them and they changed the mission, that mission. Only one word they changed. So they went from we create the best leaders in the world to we create the best leaders for the world. And that changes everything. And in that moment when I was hearing the speech, I felt inspired. But at the same time, I felt bad. I felt like kind of sad and kind of angry at the same time. And I needed to apply what I preach, right? When you feel something, sometimes we feel emotions we don't know, but they are trying to send us a message. That's
Yeah.
the emotions are the language of our body. They're trying to send us a message. So emotional intelligence is understanding, why am I feeling this? Why? So I always say, if you're feeling an unpleasant emotion, it means there's a need that is not being met. If you're feeling, I don't like to call it positive or negative, so I call it pleasant or unpleasant. If you feel a pleasant emotion, there's needs that are being met in that moment. That's the real cause of emotions are inside of us and not caused by others. Others are triggers or situations, but it's inside of us, so give us power. Coming back, I was looking at myself, trying to understand why such an inspiring story and example makes me feel at the same time inspired and angry and sad. And then I realized that I was trying to be, because, for example, in Toastmasters, they organized the World Championship of Public Speaking. I was trying for several years to be the best speaker in the world. And I was the European champion. I placed in the top 30 speakers in the world. So one of my goals was to be the best speaker in the world. And I kind of brought that to my business. So every time I was delivering a training or a speech, if it was amazing, 100% people standing ovation, like amazing, I would feel amazing. Yes, this is what I want. But if it was not, if it was just good, that I noticed, yes, some people didn't really connect, I was devastated. Even though a lot of people would come to me and say they liked it and it was amazing for them. But just for some people didn't like it, it wasn't good for me. I would feel devastated because my focus was to be the best. My focus was myself. And when I realized that, I thought, yeah, I need to change that. I need to change my mission just like the university did.
Mhm.
So right now, I don't want to be the best speaker in the world. I want to be the best speaker for my audiences, for the people that I work with. And that changed completely because now I don't need everyone to like it. I don't have that pressure on me anymore. And it
Mhm.
feels so good because at the same time, when I prepare my speeches, I prepare it in such different way. Because when you change your mission, your need, it changes your thoughts, it changes how you feel, it changes what you do. So what I started doing was I need to understand my audience's needs and problems and how can I help them. So I have this whole customization and personalization where I speak not just with people that hire me inside the company, but with different people, different attendees, different backgrounds, and I have informal conversations with them. It's not even a call. I call them and we have this informal conversations, and this gives me so much information that really my speeches and trainings in consultancy becomes more richer and more impactful. And one of the things that I do in this customization is I brought a little bit of my singing experience. So what I do, this is one of my surprises that I have.
Mhm.
I sing a song for them. So the keynote ends and I tell them, I have a surprise for you. I created a custom lyrics for you. I will speak to them. I will do all the research. I will create a custom lyrics for them. And so what I do is I use Imagine by John Lennon, for example, so everyone can sing with me. So
Mhm.
at the end, 200, 300 people in the audience, we all sing together, but it's a song, it's a lyrics that have that funny moments. It's humorous. It has those private jokes that sometimes a company has, the company slogan or the event, and it's like the cherry on the top of the cake. But now I don't do it because I want to be better. I do it for my audiences. So
Mhm.
the message that I send right now, because I learned myself, is don't focus as a leader, and not for everyone, don't focus on being the best in the team. Focus on being the best for the team.
Absolutely fantastic. And with all that being said, the way you tied it nicely with the question that I actually had for you, which is what is the surprise you finish in your keynote speeches with? I want to take you into the traditions here on the SMARTA podcast. And there are two. The first one would be, what would be your top two books that you would say completely changed the way you view life?
Sometimes we make this line between personal and work.
Yeah.
And after the pandemic, it's more blurred for sure, but the line is just in our heads. There's no line there because it's relationships. When we're talking about emotional intelligence and engagement, the same rules that we apply in work applies in personal relationships. Same thing. The gap model for parenting, for example. Yeah, they want to grow. They want autonomy. They want to feel appreciated. They want an open environment.
Yeah.
And the purpose is starting to build, right? The first one is Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Amazing book. One of the things that I like, it's simple, it's practical, it's deep, and it works on our relationships. We need to communicate more our emotions, our needs, and sometimes we don't do, and that's very, very important. And judge less and speak more about our facts. Judge less and understand more other people also, right? So it's Marshall Rosenberg, the Nonviolent Communication. And the other one, a little bit more for the leadership, is for sure Trust and Inspire by Stephen M.R. Covey. Now, sorry, I will tell the third one that I mentioned before, EQ Applied by Justin Bariso for emotional intelligence. Yeah, let's keep it like that. I will be here all
I'm
day.
sure you can keep going for it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I have a special tradition here where I ask the last guest to leave a question for the next guest. So my previous one, Dr. David Burkus, left over this question for you to answer. How can a leader build more emotional intelligence between teammates?
Yes. There's also one research that tells us that one of the small things, those simple things you can do inside a team, inside a company, is where people inside the company have a focus on helping their colleagues, on doing something outside their work. It's not in their tasks. It's not what they're supposed to do. But then you have that mindset, that focus on that question. So for we to get a result, it's like ChatGPT. The quality of our answers depends on the quality of our questions. So if we don't ask these questions, we won't get these results. The question that you need to put in your mind when you work, a leader or not, every worker, is what can I do to help a colleague? Something that it's not in my task, but what can I do today? What can I do this week or this month to help this colleague specifically, or that, or even someone in the other department? Because a lot of times when companies come to me, they say, there's a lot of people say, hey, that's not my job to do. So this is not what I'm supposed to do. And I have so much work already here. So don't ask me to do something else. So this is not my job. Why are other departments taking so long to send me this that's so important to me? So again, it comes to the same idea of focusing on myself and my goals and not really be attentive. So we need to focus on other people's needs. Sometimes to meet your needs, you need to meet other people's needs first, or a lot of times.
And I started the episode with you talking directly with the person listening. I want to finish it in the same way. So, Ricardo, if you can talk with the person directly listening right now, what would be your end message to them?
Okay. I think it's when you think about traveling in an airplane, if you go to an airplane, inside an airplane, and if your belief is this is going to fall, or this is very dangerous, right? You enter with that belief. So because you think you have that thought, you feel a certain emotion. So that is a connection. So you feel fear or anxiety. Because you feel anxiety, you're going to act in a certain way. Maybe you take a pill so it's easier for you. Maybe you're not going to enjoy that trip, that voyage, right? It's going to be an awful experience. But the person sitting to that person, different person, has this different belief. And the different belief is the airplane is the safest way of transportation that there is. And statistics prove that, right? So just because he or she has that belief, he feels a certain emotion, which is relaxed or happy or whatever it is. But because he or she feels that emotion, will do something in the plane, might sleep or watch a movie or read a book or look at the amazing view. Whatever it is, going to be an amazing experience. The only thing that changed, just like when I was in the karaoke and I said, well, there's no use in doing this. Forget, they're the experts. I'm not going to be a singer. They said I'm no good at it, right? When I changed that belief, I was in a rock band and I had all those experiences just because I changed that belief. Same thing there. The only thing that changed in that experience is the thought, is the belief. So if you take the airplane example out and you bring your whole life, it's the same thing. So the way you look at life, the way you look at your experiences, the quality of your thoughts, you need to apply the same principle as the emotional intelligence definition from Justin Bariso. Is that thought good for you or bad for you? And now we're not talking about if it's true or not, because some thoughts are not true, but they are good for you. And they are called humor. So if you enter a room and people stop talking in that moment, your thought might come, hey, they're talking bad things about me. But then you can challenge it and say, hey, maybe they're organizing a surprise party for me. And now it doesn't have to be true, but it changes your whole physiology, your emotions, and what you do. So the message here is change the quality of your thoughts. It will change the quality of your emotion. It will change what you do. It will change your results. It will change your life. Of course, there's more to emotional intelligence than just this technique, but I think it's a very good one, and we've seen a few examples here.
And just to add a little thing onto what you said, because you brought this in from your keynote speeches, you have this really nice phrase that I looked at on YouTube in your speaker reel, I believe, that if you want to change a behavior, you have to change how or what others feel, and only then can you change what they believe. And with that, Ricardo Cabete, I just want to thank you for taking the time today on being on the SMARTA podcast. And I truly believe the listener will take away, the GAP method and will apply it into their life and the tips you've shared.
For sure. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Sonia, for delivering the podcast in such a natural way. So I felt this psychological safety to share everything with you even more intimate a little bit. And so thank you so much and keep doing. I've seen some of your podcast interviewers. They're amazing. Some idols that I have also. So thank you so much. Keep doing your great job. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your words. That's truly amazing.
Thank you.
I want to share this crazy statistic that I came across on Ricardo's website when I was researching him. And it's this, that the EQ, emotional intelligence, explains almost 60%, 58% off-job performance. And so what was really interesting was that 90% of those top performers that you can even look up yourself, those people in a team that always work hard, or the leaders that seem to never bounce down and always maximize and upgrade their performance, 90% of these people have emotional intelligence and have mastered it. Thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode. That being said, if you made it this far into the episode, I just want to personally congratulate you because you wanted to listen to something that can increase your job performance, your ability to connect and understand and lead teams of people. And that's just amazing. If you have enjoyed it, why don't you leave a 5-star review so we can keep bringing amazing guests on the podcast? I'm Sonia Marta. This is the SMARTA Podcast. And in case no one told you today, I want to be the first person that tells that I believe in you and your ability to create the life of your dreams. See you next Monday.